Better You Bet countdown to kickoff.
Williams throwing, and it's caught for the touchdown by DJ Moore.
We've got you set for all the weekend's postseason action.
Stafford going towards the end zone. Parkinson! What a catch! And a touchdown!
From sides to totals to props, we've got you covered. It's You Better You Bet countdown to kickoff, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports. Here's your host, Nick Kostos.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry Wild Card Sunday in the National Football League playoffs to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports. As we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Wild Card Sunday, in the National Football League, the world of sports is alive. And we're going to cover the National Football League from every angle over the course of the next 2 hours. I'm going to break down all the biggest storylines and all the betting angles for today's playoff triple header, starting with the Bills and the Jaguars a couple hours from now in Duval County in Jacksonville. Best bets coming up next hour for every game, and thy Royal Prop King, all the prop bets, the yardage bets, the anytime touchdowns coming up next hour on the show. Very much look forward to that. And we will have two tremendous guests joining us. My friend, Will Brinson, CBS Sports NFL analyst and writer, will join us at the top of next hour to hit the coaching carousel around the NFL, and that SOB is spinning, and give us his best bets for today in the NFL. And then our friend, Ross Tucker of Westwood One Sports, the NFL on CBS. Ross will be on the call on national radio later today on Westwood One from Philadelphia, from the link for the Eagles and the 49ers, along with the great Iron Eagle. And then Ross, one of the hardest working men in all of show business, Ross will be on the sidelines tomorrow night on Westwood One of the Texans and the Steelers, Monday Night Football. Kevin Harlan, Kurt Warner on the call of that game. So Ross Tucker will close the show, and you'll hear Ross nationally on the radio for the Eagles and the Niners later this afternoon on Westwood One Sports. But we officially begin the Wild Card Sunday edition of You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff with what might be, and I thought about this last night, and I was talking to our crew, to Grant Leader and Max Sheedy and Tyler Morales before the show. Last night with the Packers and the Bears, the way that this game ends, how in the world are you going to sleep right after that game ends? There's no way. It's not possible. You're buzzing. It was electric. And that electricity is coursing through your body, coursing through your veins, and you are high on NFL football. I bet the Packers, and it absolutely stunk to lose that way, but still, you can bask in the glory of what was a great day in the NFL playoffs. And I'm thinking about it, right? Because we had two unbelievable, heart-stopping thrillers yesterday in the NFL playoffs, with the Bears coming from behind to beat the Green Bay Packers in dramatic fashion, and the L.A. Rams avoiding what would have been a catastrophic and cataclysmic upset at Carolina against Bryce Young and the Panthers, winning 34-31. Now, those of you in the listening audience, those of you in the viewing audience, youtube.com/@thekostos, youtube.com/@THEKOSTOS. For those that know me personally, know me well, even if you don't know me that well, you know that what I'm about to say is true. What I'm about to say brings up nothing but bad memories for yours truly as a sports fan. But when I think about the only day in the history of the wild card rounds of the NFL playoffs that can rival yesterday, Saturday, January 10th, year of our Lord, 2026, is unfortunately Sunday, January 4th, in the year of our Lord, 2003. Which, if you're old enough to remember, is the Pittsburgh Steelers with Tommy Maddox at quarterback coming from behind to beat Kelly Holcomb, Butch Davis, and the Cleveland Browns. Shouted to Chris Fuamatu-Mafala with the winning touchdown in that game. Steelers 36, Browns 33. And then the nightcap, sadly for me, as a lifelong diehard fan of the New York Football Giants, the worst loss of my fandom in any team that I root for was this game. And we got to see it brought up 9 million times last night as the Bears came from behind to beat the Packers. Giants blow a 38-14 lead and lose to San Francisco in the Bay Area, 39-38. As Chike O'Keefer rock bottoms Rich Seibert on the final play of the game as the punter Matt Allen takes a bad snap from Trey Junkin and chucks the ball down the field to try and save the season. Not that this is a moment seared into my consciousness or anything, you know. So I really think it's that day, Sunday, January 4th, 2003, and Saturday, January 10th, 2026. The best days in the history of the wild card round of the NFL postseason. And we'll get to the Rams and Panthers coming up later this hour. And I will give you all my thoughts on all the stories and all the bets for the games as we move along. But we'll begin with what we saw last night as the Chicago Bears come from behind, down 21-3 at half, getting shellacked, getting abused, getting dominated by Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Down 21-3 at half, down 21-6 to begin the fourth quarter, to come all the way behind to win in what was a crazy final 15 minutes at Soldier Field. Final score, Bears 31, Packers 27. And it's not just the result of the game, with the Bears moving on to the divisional round, to host a game next weekend in the divisional round as the 2 seed in the NFC playoffs. No. It's not just that. Last night's game is going to, as I've told you over the course of the week, and now you're all seeing that I was right about this. This is a result that will likely have major ramifications on the coaching carousel this year in the National Football League. And I promise to all the Bears fans out there that are listening to the show, all the Bears fans out there that are watching the show, great job by your team. You deserve to celebrate. That is a hell of a win. The best win for the Bears in 15 years as a franchise. That is absolutely exceptional. I promise I will spend time crediting your team. But we have to call a spade a spade. And we have to start with the biggest story out of last night. And yes, the Bears have been cardiac kids all season long. And yes, the Bears have made this into a routine, falling behind in games and coming back to win. And as a Giants fan, I love it, because the Bears got Brian Daboll fired, and that needed to happen. So yes, the Bears deserve a lot of credit, but let's tell the truth. It's always what we want to do here on You Better You Bet. It's always what me, Nick Kostos, what I want to do is tell you the truth. And last night was not just an epic comeback by the Chicago Bears. No. It was a collapse by Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers. The anatomy of a collapse. And I brought up Giants-Niners. I remember watching that and thinking, if one of like 18 things had gone differently, the Giants would have won that game. In the same way you can say, if one of like 18 things goes differently, the Packers win last night. And I'm not making a case that the Packers deserve to win, so please don't confuse what I'm saying. But that's the truth, right? What I'm saying is the truth. And if you watch this game, and if you didn't, I'm going to tell you what happened right now, so all good. You know that the Packers controlled this game. Green Bay dominated for the first 30 minutes. Absolutely dominated before letting go of the rope in the second half of this game. Now it's true that Packers kicker Brandon McManus was a curtain-jerking, slappy jabroni, missing 2 field goals, missing an extra point. All critical misses by McManus, especially the extra point and the field goal towards the end of the game. Obviously it mattered. Obviously it mattered quite a bit. You had Packers receivers dropping big passes, most notably Jaden Reed on what was the final Packers drive of the game that ended in an incomplete heave into the end zone by Jordan Love. And yes, the Packers defense collapsed in the final 15 minutes, allowing 25 points to Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears offense. But the biggest culprit, by far, for the Packers' loss is head coach Matt LaFleur. And right, wrong, or indifferent. And I'm coming down slightly on the side of I don't necessarily agree with it, but I mean, after last night, it's really hard to construct a disagreement that makes a ton of sense. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I think the Packers are going to fire him. And I told you that yesterday. And I said it all week on the new time slot for You Better You Bet. Weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern on Westwood One Sports. I said it all week. Watch for the Packers. Watch for the Packers and John Harbaugh if this doesn't go well on Saturday night. Lots of smoke that Matt LaFleur could be out of a job if the Green Bay Packers lose this game. And not only did the Green Bay Packers lose the game, but they lost it in soul-crushing fashion to their hated rival, the Chicago Bears. And now you're getting the reports. Adam Schefter's on ESPN NFL Countdown like 45 minutes ago in real time here on Sunday morning, talking about the Packers potentially moving on from Matt LaFleur, who's entering the final year of his contract. I'll ask all of you this question in the listening and viewing audience. I think all of you are really smart. You're all big football fans, right? Do you think Matt LaFleur's getting a multi-year extension to coach the Green Bay Packers after last night? Do you think that's what's likely? Or he's going to be a lame duck heading into next year? Really? Who thinks that? It could happen. Is it likely? I think not. Adam Schefter went on to add that John Harbaugh would be the most likely and logical candidate to replace Matt LaFleur. Wow, what a coinky-dink. If only I'd been saying that, and I'm not saying Adam Schefter's ripping my opinions. I thought this was all pretty obvious. If only I hadn't been saying this for the past 3 or 4 days, that this was going to be the case. And Matt LaFleur coached a brutal game last night, specifically in the second half for the Green Bay Packers, where the Packers come out of the second half, they're up 21-3. And Jordan Love talked about this postgame. Jordan Love, I'm paraphrasing what Jordan Love said. What Jordan Love said was, we didn't make adjustments to the Bears' adjustments. Sounds like a coaching problem, where you can say, and be right, that Bears defensive coordinator Dennis Allen, he of the mightily failed tenures at head coach of the then Oakland Raiders and the New Orleans Saints, outfoxed Matt LaFleur in the second half of last night's playoff game. LaFleur was not aggressive enough early in the second half with the lead, and then way too aggressive late when he could have bled a lot more time off the clock for Chicago. Horrendous usage of timeouts towards the end of this game. I don't know what the hell he was thinking last night. Just a miserable coaching performance by Matt LaFleur, where if he does a little better, the Green Bay Packers are headed to Seattle next weekend in the divisional round. But alas, not meant to be. And because of that, I think we are going to see the NFL coaching carousel absolutely flipped on its head, where we could have, in the days to come, head coaches looking for employment that include John Harbaugh, Matt LaFleur, who's going to be at the top of a lot of teams' lists. Think about all the teams that would cut off an appendage to have a young, stud offensive play caller like Matt LaFleur. And yes, the Packers missed the playoffs in 22, and Aaron Rodgers' final game losing to Dan Campbell and the Lions at Lambeau on Sunday Night Football. And yes, the Packers have been the 7 seed the last 3 years, and no, they wouldn't have made it the last 3 years under the old format. And yes, he was terrible last night in the second half. Also, he's won 1 million games, and he's a really, really good young offensive play caller. You don't think Matt LaFleur is going to get another job if he wants it, if the Packers choose to move on? So you could have Harbaugh, you could have Matt LaFleur, and as I've been saying for days now, and you thought I was nuts when I told you the Ravens would fire John Harbaugh, if the Buffalo Bills lose today in Jacksonville against the Jaguars, I think Sean McDermott joins it. What John Gruden calls, I'm trying to get this right without cursing, the Fired Coaches Football Association, whatever that is, whatever the acronym is, Sean McDermott would join that list. Think about that. And then we had, just in a delicious bit of adding to a story, Ian Rappaport of NFL Media tweeted right before we came on the air this morning, right before 11 a.m. Eastern, that NFL teams actually think Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman is still in the mix to leave Notre Dame to coach an NFL team. And this despite Marcus Freeman putting a statement out like 2 weeks ago saying that he was going to stay at Notre Dame for 2026 and beyond. I mean, this is going to be bananas. It's going to be bonkers. And no one's making any decisions, obviously, until we see what the Buffalo Bills do today. And if that job could be open, if the Bills lose today, maybe John Harbaugh wants that job. Maybe Matt LaFleur would want to go coach Josh Allen in Buffalo. Maybe, if the Packers move on from Matt LaFleur would go to Miami, where the Dolphins just hired the Packers Vice President of Player Personnel, John Eric Sullivan, to be the GM. Or go to Tennessee to coach Cam Ward, where he was the offensive coordinator for the Titans prior to becoming the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. It is all massively interesting. And I think this is going to be the craziest NFL coaching carousel in quite some time. Last note here for the opening segment. I promised that I would credit the Chicago Bears, and I will do that now. Looked bad, you will admit, Bears fans, and I bet Green Bay, and I was wrong. And I bet responsibly, so I slept well last night, and I feel really good today. To all the Bears fans, you guys are great. I'm friends with a lot of Bears fans. I work with a lot of Bears fans. What a moment for you guys. Absolutely deserved. And no, the Bears did not get lucky in winning last night's game. Look, the Packers helped, obviously, but this is an authentic win by the Chicago Bears. And after a terrible first half by Ben Johnson, I mean, you want to talk about like a better on tilt. Like you lose a couple, hands of blackjack, and then you go and drop a bunch of money on black at the roulette table. I mean, Ben Johnson going for it on some of these fourth downs in the first half. This was crazy. And I'm all for coaches being aggressive. That was a little too aggressive last night, from Ben Johnson. But he got it together big time in the second half, as did his quarterback, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, I actually kind of despise the discourse around Caleb Williams because, I despise it because I wish everyone could just settle on one thing. But I understand how this goes, that it's like, Marlowe says in The Wire. You want it to be one thing, but it's actually the other thing. I'd love for it to be just Caleb Williams is awesome. But unfortunately, and I think this is the truth, and Bears fans, I think that you have to admit it, Caleb Williams is able to make the impossible look possible, but is also very capable of making the possible look impossible. He makes the toughest throws you will ever see look as easy. I mean, the 4th and 8 throw with 5.5 minutes to play down 27-16 to Rome Odunze from right to left on your television screen down the near sideline is one of the greatest throws I've ever seen in now 36 years of watching the National Football League. Like, it shouldn't be physically possible for a quarterback to make the throws that he can make. He also misses a lot of throws. Now, I'm not saying this to hate on Caleb Williams. I think he's amazing, and I think he's only going to get better, and I think the Bears, I didn't plan on saying this, but I'm thinking it in the moment. Like, if you asked me, will the Bears win a Super Bowl with Caleb Williams at quarterback at some point during his career, and I had to bet on it, I bet on yes. So think about that. The compliment that I'm paying him, the compliment that I'm paying Ben Johnson, the compliment that I'm paying the Bears. He is a little inconsistent, though, right? Despite, the flashes that he shows. This is still, though, it's a fantastic win for the Bears. And a great job by their defense, who were trash outside of the turnovers that they forced for much of the season, got brutalized in the first half by the Packers offense, and then somehow, some way, despite losing players to injury, turn into the 85 Bears in the second half and totally shut the Packers offense down. Incredible job by Dennis Allen, the DC, by Ben Johnson, the head coach and the offensive play caller, by Caleb Williams, by Colston Loveland, who's an absolute monster, and by the players on the team. Incredible job by the Bears. I did say that I think Caleb Williams will win a Super Bowl at some point in his career. I believe that. I don't think it'll happen this year. And I hope you all know I'm not trying to be a hater when I say that. I think the Bears are probably at least a year away. So I don't know that last night's result is going to have a huge impact on who wins Super Bowl 60. The game that we'll discuss on the other side and the result that we'll discuss coming up next absolutely did and does. I will break down the Rams' stunning come-from-behind win against the Carolina Panthers on the road and tell you why I think that this will be the most impactful result of Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports rolls on right after this, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
Launching to the right side. A reaching grab at the pylon. Parkinson hauls it in. Oh, man. Colby Parkinson using all of that 6'7" frame right at the fringe of the field to bring it in high. It's a Rams touchdown. 38 seconds to go.
This is You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
Jason Benetti and Ryan Leaf with the call yesterday on Westwood One as the Rams avoid a cataclysmic collapse in Carolina, beating the Panthers 34-31. And all the young, immature members of my show crew typing in the show chat, 6'7", since Colby Parkinson's 6'7". I just did the hand motion also because I'm a 42-year-old child. Just being honest with everybody. We'll get to the breakdown of that game coming up in a moment and why it may be the most consequential result of Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. But we got to tell you about our show sponsor, the great people at BetMGM, because we want you, dear listener, you, dear viewer, to open the playbook and choose your boost for today's action. Grab BetMGM's Pro Football Boost Pack, and you'll have 3 ways to boost your odds on your next bet. Activate one of your boost tokens for any pro football bet, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your wager wins. Well, listen, you're going to bet the NFL playoffs? I am. You probably are as well, even if it's a couple bucks, more than that. Why wouldn't you do it at BetMGM, where you'll get a bigger payout if your wager wins? Make it legendary with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app, and as always, please gamble responsibly. This Rams-Panthers game yesterday was unbelievable. And it looked like, in the first half, it was going to be terrible. It was going to be a laugher. It was going to be what the betting market expected it to be. The Rams and the Panthers were almost who we thought they were. And then they got off the damn hook. Shout out to the late, great Dennis Green. What a game this turned out to be. And I don't even know how we got to a spot. And I watched the whole damn game, and you watched the whole damn game. I have no idea how we got to a spot where the Rams were trailing in the final minute of this game in Carolina. This game should have been over. And, I didn't lose money on the game. I had the Rams in a money line parlay that will extend into today, into the national championship game in college football next Monday night. So I lost no money. This is not hard feelings by me. I have no idea how the hell the Panthers were able to claw back into this game. This was what the LA Rams did yesterday. I will not spell the acronym out because I'd like to keep my job. But for those of you that know what FAFO means, the Los Angeles Rams FA'd for a lot of this game and very, very nearly FO'd. They led 14-0 in the first half, and this game is over when Puka Nacua scores his second touchdown of the first half. And credit the Carolina Panthers, right? And credit Bryce Young, who's going to have his fifth-year option picked up. I don't know if Bryce Young is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but looked like he played pretty well yesterday, made some great throws, including the go-ahead touchdown to Jalen Coker with a couple minutes to play. But we had a couple things happen for the Rams that rear their ugly head for the Rams way too often for a team that many people think is the best team in the NFL and the most likely to win the Super Bowl. The first is, and I'll preface this by saying, I don't know what order you'd put them in, but I think the best 3 coaches in the NFL are Andy Reid, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan. I don't know what order you'd put them in, but I think they're 1 through 3. And McVay is exceptional. He makes some weird-ass decisions sometimes. And I'm saying, I think if the Rams ever fired him, which they wouldn't, but if they did, he'd get another job in a heartbeat. You'd fire your whole organization to hire Sean McVay. He's great. But he makes these decisions sometimes. It's like, what's this dude thinking? Up 17-7 towards the end of the first half. 4th and 3, manageable field goal for Harrison, Mevis, and Butthead, the thicker kicker. And instead of going for 3 to take a 20-7 lead when you get the ball to start the second half, they go for it. Why? You're a huge favorite. Take a 13-point lead. You're dominating the game. You don't try to give them momentum potentially. They don't get it. Here comes Bryce Young and the Panthers. Touchdown, 17-14. And yes, Puka Nacua drops a touchdown towards the end of the first half. It was an unforced error by Sean McVay and the Rams. And then special teams once again rears its ugly head for the Los Angeles Rams. You better you bet. Wild Card Sunday in the NFL. Nick Kostos here with you on Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM. Now, earlier this season, not too long ago, the LA Rams fired special teams coach Chase Blackburn. Giants Super Bowl legend picked off Tom Brady in Super Bowl 46. It was the first in-season firing of a coach on his staff that Sean McVay has done since he became the Rams head coach. Because the Rams special teams have been terrible this season. And towards the end of this game, with the Rams holding a lead, the Rams send out the punting unit, and the Panthers block the punt. Young hits Coker on the aforementioned touchdown, and the Panthers take a 4-point lead. Special teams almost sent the LA Rams home. And if you, the listener, you, the viewer, wanted to construct an argument as to why the Rams won't win or get to the Super Bowl, you would probably start it with special teams. And maybe Sean McVay, some of his curious, quizzical decision-making would be second on that list. I personally would not include Matthew Stafford's play on that list. Now, Stafford, for those of you that missed it, and I've been watching the NFL for almost 4 decades. I've never seen a quarterback who hits his hand more on like an opposing player's helmet than Matthew Stafford. It happens like every game. So it happens at the end of the first half. And there are people that will say, well, he wasn't hurt. Others will insist he was. Here's what I know. He was playing like the MVP that got 31 All-Pro votes at quarterback and will probably win Most Valuable Player. He's looking like more like that guy than like Nathan Peterman, who he looked like after his hand hit the helmet. When he's missing guys off target wildly in the second half. He's throwing interceptions in the second half. Puka Nacua's best play of the game was not one of his touchdown receptions, but he turned into Darrelle Revis and forced an incompletion on a ball that should have been picked off in the end zone on a brutal misfire from Matthew Stafford. But when it came down to it, a couple minutes to play, 71 yards to glory, 71 yards to the divisional round. Matthew Stafford was the MVP. 7 plays, 71 yards. The touchdown you heard coming back from break from the great Jason Benetti and the great Ryan Leaf on Westwood One. Stafford to Colby Parkinson. And then the Panthers have one of the most pathetic 4-and-outs you'll ever see. But I mean, really, the fact that they were even in this game is a credit to that organization, to Dave Canales, to Bryce Young. So now we spin this forward. My sense is, and I can be wrong, my sense is the Rams will play much cleaner games moving forward. And maybe it's only one more, we shall see. But I think you'll get a much cleaner effort from the Rams next weekend. I don't think the Bears or the Packers could win the Super Bowl. So the result of last night's game is like, okay, great, like the Bears move on. It impacts, where teams are going to play. I don't know that it's that consequential. If the Rams had lost yesterday, you want to talk about, how crazy that would be. Like one of the best teams in the league out on the wild card round. Bad news for the rest of the NFC that the Rams won. Consider this to wrap this segment. Let's say the Eagles win today against San Francisco, and I'll preview that game coming up next. Let's just say the Eagles win. Forget about cover the 6-point spread. That will mean next weekend in the divisional rounds in the NFC, like Usher famously sang in the 2003 pop hit, Yeah, from a 1 to 10, these games are a certified 20. Eagles at Bears. Rams at Seahawks, part 3. Oh, baby. Think about how good that will be if we get it. And you know my opinion. I'll take both road teams setting up an Eagles-Rams NFC title game in Philadelphia. But let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. The Eagles still have a game to play today against Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. We also have Sunday Night Football in Foxborough with the Pats and the Chargers, and the Bills and the Jaguars coming up 90 minutes from now in Jacksonville. And coming up next, all the storylines and all the betting angles for Wild Card Sunday in the NFL with me, Nick Kostos, and you, whoever the hell you are, on Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. This is You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
Will Brinson of CBS Sports will join us to start next hour. Talking all things National Football League, the playoffs, and the coaching carousel. Ross Tucker of Westwood One Sports next hour as well to wrap up the program. Ross will be on the call later this afternoon of the Eagles and the Niners in Philly with Ian Eagle. And I'll be on the sidelines tomorrow night, Texans and Steelers, Westwood One, with Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner on the call of that game. All my bets for today, side total and thy royal props, next hour on the show. For right now, with Nick Kostos and you, here on You Better You Bet, Countdown to Kickoff, Wild Card Sunday in the NFL. You can follow me on all socials at the Kostos. Can I get my name right? At the Kostos, TheKostos. I speak for a living. It's like my 6th hour of radio already today. TheKostos. And the new show YouTube page, youtube.com/at the Kostos. TheKostos. I'm in all 3 games now for today. All the biggest storylines, betting angles. And we'll start in Duval with the Jaguars and the Bills. We're currently at BetMGM. The Jaguars, a 1.5-point home favorite, total 51.5. Kevin Kugler, Mike Mayock will be on the call of this game on Westwood One coming up in a little bit. And my good friend, Scott Graham, will be the studio host for all 3 games today, Wild Card Sunday in the NFL. Now, even if you, the listener, you, the viewer, even if you don't bet, which is totally fine, right? What I'm about to say, I think, should interest you. This will interest bettors, and I think it should interest non-bettors as well. Throughout this entire season, and we see this every year, sometimes it's a mix of good teams and bad teams. Sometimes it's good teams, sometimes it's bad. There are usually a couple teams every NFL season that get bet pretty much every single game day. And this year, the Buffalo Bills have been one of those teams. So it goes noted that today, on the eve of a playoff game, 90-minute playoffs, 90 minutes from now, that the Bills, who were favored for much of the week in Jacksonville, are now the underdog. And that can flip. We still have 90 minutes before kickoff. Obviously, it could still flip. But that's pretty crazy that bettors are ejecting from the Bills. Not every bettor, but that it feels like a good amount, or influential ones at least, like the Jaguars in the game a little bit, which does not mean the Jaguars are going to win or the Bills are going to win. Just an interesting point of conversation and some interesting context, I think, when we talk about this game. And you can feel it already that if the Bills lose this game, there are going to be a lot of excuses made. And this is what I'm about to say is not an anti-Bills thing. I don't care. I actually think they're going to win this game, and I think they're going to win the AFC. So I'm going to be rooting for them today. People will say, well, Bills have a terrible run defense. Well, the Bills have no speed on the outside. The weapons stink for Josh Allen. Here's what I have to say. No Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow, no excuse for the Buffalo Bills not to win. And we do have this piece of news. This has just come down per a bunch of NFL insiders. Actives in and inactives are out. Not unexpected, but Jaguars left tackle Cole Van Lanen is out today with a knee injury. So the Jaguars will be down their left tackle going up against the Buffalo Bills. If we have any movements in the betting market, I will bring it to you here. Just Tyler, our executive producer, just be monitoring BetMGM to see if we flip it all here. As of right now, the Jaguars remain a small home favorite in this game against Buffalo, especially with this injury. No excuse for the Bills to not win this game today. In a postseason without Mahomes, Lamar, and Burrow, Josh Allen should be the main character of the AFC playoffs. And if the Bills lose today, this would be like you, the listener, or me, the viewer, going to see the new John Wick movie, and Keanu Reeves is dead in the first half hour. John Wick dies in the first half hour. You'd fire the director. You'd fire the screenwriter. What the hell did I just watch? Remember what I said last Sunday in this very time slot. If the Ravens lose to the Steelers, they're going to fire John Harbaugh. If the Bills lose today in Jacksonville, I believe they will fire Sean McDermott. And he'll join the coaching carousel with John Harbaugh, maybe Matt LaFleur, maybe Notre Dame coach Marcus Freeman's getting back on the carousel per NFL Media's Ian Rappaport tweeting that about an hour ago. So a lot going on here in this game, not just what's on the field. Now, as far as what's on the field, my opinion, I can be wrong. Just ask my wife. If Josh Allen is Josh Allen, and he's Superman, dun, 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 I think the Bills are going to win. I think he will be Superman today. I like the Bills to beat the Jaguars. And we'll see where the betting market closes. But for Jacksonville, with that run game, with Travis Etienne, whose brother Trevor was brutal yesterday for Carolina, with Etienne and Tootin, with Jacoby Myers and Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington, and Trevor Lawrence has been red hot down the stretch, it should surprise no one if the Jaguars win. I'm not trying to paint it as a lock for Buffalo or anything close to it. But I do think Josh Allen gets it done, and Sean McDermott gets a stay of execution, at least for 1 week. You bet Wild Card Sunday in the NFL. Nick Kostos here with you on Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM. Hit me up on all socials at the Kostos, TheKostos. Moving on. This afternoon in Philadelphia, Iron Eagle Ross Tucker on the call as the Eagles 6-point home favorites against Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. Total in the game, 44.5. And the Eagles last week in Week 18 said, we don't care about seeding, getting the 2 seed, and as it turned out, I think this was a good move for Philly. They couldn't have known this at the time, but it's worked out in their favor. That the Eagles don't play their starters, treat Week 18 like a glorified preseason game, lose to the Washington Commanders with Tanner McKee starting at quarterback, but rest all their players. Now, we don't know if Lane Johnson's going to play in the game for Philly, their future first ballot Hall of Fame right tackle. He may not play in the game, we'll see. But the 49ers in Week 18, last Saturday night, went all out to win, to try and win the NFC West and claim the number 1 seed and claim home field advantage in the NFC playoffs, and got stuffed into a locker in a very physical game where they kind of got manhandled by the Seattle Seahawks. Advantage Philly. Ricky Pearsall may not play for the Niners. We'll see on Trent Williams. You know, the Niners' future first ballot Hall of Fame left tackle. Brock Purdy was left lying in a heap on the final play of the game. And the Niners' entire linebacking core is hurt. And that is not a figurative statement. That is a literal statement. That the San Francisco 49ers' entire linebacking core is hurt. Which is not great going up against the Philadelphia Eagles on the road. And that's how we get to a point spread that's this big. With Philly laying 6 against San Francisco. And you might be out there listening and watching and saying, wow, that's a big number. It is. But that's the reason why it is what it is. Now, I never claim, and if you listen to the show during the week, you've heard me over the years, I never claim to be a professional sports bettor. I'm not. And if I were one, I wouldn't, and I won all the time, I wouldn't be doing the show right now. I'd be on a yacht at an island somewhere that's not gray and overcast like it is in New York City every day. But I talk to pro sports bettors. One of them is my friend Rob Pizzola, who comes on You Better You Bet every week. You can find his interview in podcast form. Just search You Bet where you find your podcasts. And Rob said to me on Friday's edition of the show that he thinks the point spread in this game should be 6. And at the time, it wasn't. And now it is. So it feels like this is just the right number in the game, which doesn't mean the Eagles won't win by 30 or the Niners can't win the game outright or keep it really close. But it feels like the number is correct. So if I'm going to bet this game, and I already have, and I talked about it yesterday on the show, I think the Eagles will win. I have the Eagles in a moneyline parlay with the Rams from yesterday and Indiana to win the national championship game next Monday night. But that would be my recommendation, would be Eagles in a moneyline parlay. I would be pretty surprised if the Eagles lost this game today to the walking wounded San Francisco 49ers when the Eagles basically had a bye week last week in Week 18 to get everybody healthy. And if the Eagles can't score on the Niners defense, if that happens, Kevin Patullo needs to stand, the Eagles offensive coordinator needs to stand trial before Nicolas Maduro. The Eagles offense has been unable to perform all season long, impotent in big spots. Today, I think the Niners defense, we'll call it Viagra. Whoop! For Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles offense. Sunday Night Football. Patriots and the Chargers in Foxborough. Tom McCarthy, Derek Rackley on the call on Westwood 1. Drake May in New England, a 3.5-point home favorite against Justin Herbert and the Bolts. Total 45.5. Last week, the Patriots dominate the Miami Dolphins and clinch the number 2 seed, right, in the AFC. And May makes a push for MVP. I think Stafford's going to win. Stafford, 31 All-Pro votes to 18 for Drake May yesterday. I think Stafford will win. Drake May had an unbelievable season. The Chargers, who could only improve their seeding, couldn't win the division. The Broncos had already won it. Jim Harbaugh opts to sit his starters, most notably quarterback Justin Herbert. And obviously, Herbert's gotten the crap kicked out of him all season because the offensive line can't protect because it's like Swiss cheese. So it made sense. I think it also kind of made sense for the Chargers to try and get into the 7 seed so they could play New England. And to anyone listening right now in the Boston area, and I'm sure you are, I'm not trying to hate on the Patriots. I think you know if you listen to me or watch me. I'm like the biggest Drake May guy there is. I bet the Patriots to make the playoffs before the season. I think Drake May is awesome. But the Patriots' pass rush is not as good as other pass rushers in the AFC. And that's what the Chargers need to avoid if they're going to have any success. If they're going to win even one playoff game, that's what they need. So I look at this game tonight, and I see a potential scenario where Justin Herbert can actually play well and have some time to throw and find open receivers. Which doesn't mean that Drake May can't put up 35 points on offense on the Jesse Minter defense. But I'm the one with the microphone that's talking. And what do I think is going to happen? I think the Chargers are going to keep this game very close because I think Herbert's going to have time to throw. He should be healthy after a week off or healthier after a week off. Give me the Bolts to fall inside the number plus the 3.5 tonight. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers pulled the outright upset. Hour 1 done. Hour 2 for you coming up on the other side. Ross Tucker will join us to close the show from Westwood One Sports. My best bets, side total and thy royal prop king, next hour. But we will begin the hour. A conversation with my good friend, the very entertaining and informative Will Brinson from CBS Sports. Coming up next, Westwood One Sports, Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Countdown to kickoff.
Williams throwing, and it's caught for the touchdown by DJ Moore.
We've got you set for all the weekend's postseason action.
Stafford going towards the end zone. Parkinson! What a catch! And a touchdown!
From sides to totals to props, we've got you covered. It's You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports. Here's your host, Nick Kostos.
Hour number 2, Wild Card Sunday in the National Football League. Nick Kostos and you. Countdown to Kickoff, Westwood One Sports. Hit up the show's new YouTube page, youtube.com/@thekostos, THEKOSTOS. Hit me up on all socials at the Kostos, THEKOSTOS. 20 minutes from now, I'll finalize my betting card for today, sides, totals, and my Royal Prop King, yardage props, and anytime touchdowns. Ross Tucker joins the show about 35 minutes from now. Ross will be on the call of the Eagles and the Niners on Westwood One, along with Ian Eagle. And then on the sidelines tomorrow night for the Texans and the Steelers on Westwood One, along with Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner. But joining us right now to take a spin around the NFL, not just bets for today in the postseason, but we got to talk about this coaching carousel, which I think is going to end up being one of the craziest in recent memory. One of the best out there when it comes to breaking down the National Football League. Longtime writer and analyst for our friends at CBS Sports, Will Brinson, on Twitter at Will Brinson. Will, happy Wild Card Sunday to you and yours. How's it going?
Nick, what's up, man? Pumped for this Sunday. Incredible Wild Card Saturday yesterday. There was just two electric games despite the big spread. I think we got 3 more in store that should be pretty good. To your point, though, look, there's nothing more frustrating than being on a text thread with you demanding credit for possible story related to coaching searches, hirings, firings, and then like you wake up and Adam Schefter's like, I'm hearing these 2 things. And I'm like, Godzilla. I mean, look, the Bills, the Packers, like the Ravens are open. I mean, it's crazy out there right now.
And how about the one that kind of like got snuck in there like an hour and a half ago? NFL Media's Ian Rappaport tweeting that Marcus Freeman could be re-entering the fray here to be in the NFL coaching cycle this period, which to me screams of like the Giants know they're not going to get Harbaugh and want to go back big game hunting if they're not going to get Harbaugh, and will make Marcus Freeman a big offer. I have no inside information. I can be way wrong about that, but that's my best guess right now. So, Will, let's start with this just as far as coaching goes. We'll hit the 3 games coming up today and Monday Night Football. Whether or not we think it's right, wrong, or indifferent that Matt LaFleur could lose his job, it feels like that's a realistic possibility. What do you think's going to happen with Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers following the Packers' collapse last night in the second half against the Bears?
So the thing about LaFleur is that, when you get a coach who has 1 year left on his deal, It's weird. Like NFL teams don't treat coaches like they treat players. If a player has 1 year left on his deal, it's like, tough, man. Like, play it out, and then we'll see how you do. We'll probably franchise tag you. Coaches won't go into that lame duck year knowing that if they don't win, that the coaches just won't do it. And so, like, you're going to see either an extension more than likely, or with the coach, you're going to either see an extension with that 1 year left, or they're going to move on, and go out and chase somebody else. And so I think with John Harbaugh out there, and the possibility that you could put John Harbaugh in like a Packers ensemble and put him on the sideline and give him a chance to win. Because to me, it's like, when you think about what happened with Andy Reid in Philadelphia, I think it's pretty similar to what happened with John Harbaugh in Baltimore, where it just, obviously Harbaugh, a Reid, disciple, it just went on for a long time, and it just kind of hit a point where they felt like they weren't going to make enough forward progress that is worth keeping him. Same thing with Buffalo and Sean McDermott, where it's like you just feel like you're hitting the ceiling. And so with Harbaugh, I think Schefter pointed out this morning, he's got a place like near Green Bay, and he has connections with Green Bay personnel guys dating back, decades. And so I think that kind of makes a lot of sense. You bring in Harbaugh, this guy who's, won big, and you feel like you've upgraded at the coaching position, even though you're moving on from Matt LaFleur. So, I think that is a distinct possibility. And Matt LaFleur would immediately become someone that a lot of teams would be really interested in, including, I would presume, Baltimore, where, remember, he's fashioned this offense around Malik Willis several times when Jordan Love's been hurt. And Willis has been awesome running the ball in a way that, like, you would get a souped-up version with Lamar Jackson.
I want you to save your opinion, because I'll ask you specifically about the Bills-Jaguars game coming up in a little over an hour from now in real time. So I don't want to know who you think is going to win the game. We'll get to that separately. If the Bills lose today, and this is not like what you think they should do you think the Bills would fire Sean McDermott and he would be out on the coaching market if the Jaguars win?
If they lose to the Jaguars, I think there is a decent chance that the Bills would say, let's move on from Sean McDermott, because, and again, we agree John Harbaugh's a great coach, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, unquestionably a great coach. It's a pretty rare opportunity to get a guy like John Harbaugh. If John Harbaugh has these ties, he has these ties to Green Bay or whatever, that's great. You know what he doesn't have in Green Bay? Josh freaking Allen and a brand new stadium. And so I think that if the Bills said Sean McDermott has been incredible, but we feel like we've hit our ceiling, and it's not fair to Sean McDermott because he's been great, but it's also not fair to Josh Allen to have Josh Allen and to hit a ceiling. There should be the ceiling is the roof with Josh Allen. And so to borrow a phrase from Michael Jordan. And so I think that if you have Josh Allen, you owe it to yourselves as a franchise to consider the possibility of upgrading to someone like John Harbaugh, who, again, Sean McDermott, great coach. John Harbaugh, better coach. I think we can all agree.
Do you want to offer a prediction here? This could be a pencil, not pen one. I have thoughts on how this is going to go. I think LaFleur goes to Miami to join John Eric Sullivan, the vice president of player personnel of the Packers, just got hired as the GM, or maybe to Tennessee to coach Cam Ward. He was the OC there before becoming the head coach of the Packers. That would be my guess for LaFleur. I guess Harbaugh to the Packers or the Bills potentially. Do you want to make a prediction? Do you have a hot take for us here on an NFL coaching hire that may happen over the course of the next couple weeks, and put your name on it?
I'll say Harbaugh to the Packers. To me, that makes just a lot of sense. John Harbaugh, yes, the Giants, this great long-standing blue blood NFL franchise, but they're the Giants. They kind of screw everything up a lot, right? I mean, you live it, you see it. The Packers are the outside of maybe the Steelers, right? The franchise. When people, maybe you could throw the Cowboys in there, I guess, but I mean, you got Jerry and all that. It's coaching the Packers. You have stability. You don't have a meddling owner in the way that you do in a lot of other places, because it's owned by Linda from Walmart. And the rest of the fans in Hoboken, Linda from Hoboken, or whatever those cities in Wisconsin are. So I think Harbaugh to the Packers makes a lot of sense because you have the quarterback in place, and you have this stability as a franchise where you feel like he could come in and win right away. So I'll say Harbaugh to the Packers. I'll also pencil in that Sean McDermott stays in Buffalo.
Okay. Maybe that means you think the Bills are. I think the Bills are going to win today, and McDermott will have a stay of execution for at least 1 week. And this is the first time I'm saying this on the air because it happened right before we came on the air with this show. I think Marcus Freeman will be the next head coach of the Giants. Because if Freeman's name is back in the Derby here, like the Giants were the team that was reported to be interested. We know they wanted Harbaugh. Now the Packers' job is open, or maybe it will be open. Maybe the Bills' job is open. To me, this is the Giants trying to scramble here and go back to Marcus Freeman. I can be wrong about that. That would be my guess for right now. Here.
So do you think, just out of curiosity, do you think that the Freeman stuff is coming from Freeman's side or from the Giants side? Like, I mean, not the interest, like the leakage, for lack of a better phrase.
Maybe from the Freeman side. And the reason I say that is, like, I'm sure the Giants have reached back out. And I think this just makes sense, right? Just like what human beings do. If I were him and that got out there, he's getting paid a ton of money by Notre Dame. They basically have rigged this, right? Where, like, they're going to the college football playoff moving forward, right? That story broke, right?
Every year moving forward because of the memorandum of understanding. Yeah.
Right? Whatever. I had to, like, look up what that meant.
But I mean, yes. Their schedule next year is unbelievably soft, and they just have to be top 12 to make the playoffs. So, like, they're basically in.
So my guess is Freeman's camp probably leaked that to say, okay, like, what's the blank check going to be here? Like, how much money are we getting to come coach the Giants? I would guess that Freeman's camp leaked it, but we shall see in the days and weeks to come. Here on Countdown to Kickoff, Wild Card Sunday and the NFL, Nick Kostos here with you on Westwood One Sports. My guest, Will Brinson from CBS Sports, longtime NFL writer and analyst. He is great on Twitter at Will Brinson. All right. Let's get your bets for the 3 games today. And let's start, Will, with the Bills and the Jaguars, where the Jaguars just ruled their left tackle out, Cole Van Lanen, for today's game. We're basically like pick the winner of the game. The Jags about a 1-point home favorite, 51.5 the total. What do you think happens with the Jags and the Bills?
So I had Bills and Rams in the Super Bowl before the season. I'm kind of tempted to, like, follow my preseason prediction and ride that out. But I've got a lot of family from Duval County. My mom is from Jacksonville. My late grandfather, a original Jaguar season ticket holder. My Aunt Susan, shout out to Aunt Susan and Uncle Rick. Aunt Susan wears a Trevor Lawrence wig to every Jaguars home game. I think the Jaguars are going to get it done. My heart's telling me too much. And I also think, here's the other thing, Nick. Like, if we take Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence out of the equation, and like, I know that's a weird thing to do, but because Josh Allen's better. Josh Allen is a better quarterback. Trevor Lawrence has probably been better over the last month than Josh Allen has. On a game-to-game, play-to-play basis, like, you're going to take Josh Allen in almost any instance. But if you take them out of it, the Jaguars are just by far the better overall team here. And it's not really close. Like, James Cook and Travis Etienne, like, Cook probably take Cook, that's fine, but Etienne has been awesome this year. The defense for the Jaguars substantially better. And the skill guys, the pass catchers for the Jaguars are way better than the guys catching passes for the Buffalo Bills. Now, you got some Gabe Davis revenge game factor here. I think that could be in play. But I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it ends up going under, like, 50 total. So, like, I would take the under, but a little scared of it just because it could be, you could see a second half explosion. I think the Jaguars find a way to pull it off. And we hear Pete Prisco screaming, Duval! From his little Jaguars lair.
I love that it's a Gabe Davis revenge game against the team that gave him $40 million and then, like, released him like a year, like, who, like, overpaid him, and now he's going to get revenge on them instead of vice versa. I love that. Gabe Davis might have, Josh Palmer's out, might have to play a big role today for the Buffalo Bills. All right, sandwich game today, Eagles and the Niners in Philly. Eagles, a 6-point home favorite, 44.5. What do you like here with Philly and San Fran?
Yeah, I mean, this line is steamed, like, kind of out of control, right? When did it open it? Like, was it 4.5, 3, 4?
No, it was less than that. It was less than that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I thought it was like 3.5.
Has gone on.
Yeah, it's gotten bet out like crazy. And I think, like, a lot is going to come down to the injury, the actual inactives here, because for me, as important as Jalen Hurts, as important as Brock Purdy are, the 2 most important players in this game are Trent Williams and Lane Johnson, because the 49ers without Trent Williams are just a different football team. And the Eagles offense without Lane Johnson is just a completely different offense. I think that the problem, like I want to back the Niners, but I think there's I don't think the Niners can blow out Philly. I do think Philly can blow out the Niners. And that's the issue, is that because the Niners defense right now is just so depleted and it's just not good. And I cannot get past visualizing the holes that the Seahawks running backs had in that game, in that Week 18 game against the 49ers defense. And if Lane Johnson is out there, the Eagles are going to have that. And it feels like as Saquon Barkley's year was this past season compared to 2024, this might be like a Saquon game where if you look at what the Niners have allowed, I mean, they give up like 100+ yards to Tony Pollard on like 15 carries. They're giving up explosive plays to running backs every single week over the last month. Like, I think Jonathan Taylor, he scored, and he's like the one guy who didn't rip off a 20+ yard rush over the last 5+ weeks against this Niners defense. And so, like, this feels like Saquon pops off a first quarter long touchdown run. Brock Purdy is forced to throw the ball a ton. The Eagles are getting pressure. They're closing in on the skill guys. Trent Williams maybe not out there, not completely healthy. And it's just like a CMC dink and dunk fest. I love laddering CMC receptions. Like, I think you take it up to 10. It's like 9-1 or something, which is a pretty good number. And I just think there's a chance Philly runs away with it. So I would lean towards Philly. Probably won't play it because it's a big number. But I'm just a little scared San Francisco doesn't have enough defensively to slow them down. I think Saquon anytime touchdown is a very good look at a pretty reasonable price.
I'll do this next segment. I have bet Saquon to score 2 touchdowns in today's game, and I'm with you totally.
I also have
Barkley.
Saquon. I have a Saquon 2-touchdown bet along with Travis Etienne 2 touchdown scores, as well as Puka Nacua 2 touchdown scores.
Oh, so that's a live going into today.
It's live. It's spicy. It's spicy.
I tell you, man, ETN scores 2 touchdowns. You got to have a nice sweat going into Eagles 49ers. Let's close with Sunday Night Football. Maybe like 30 to 60 seconds here to wrap. New England 3.5 against the Bolts. The Chargers to the uninitiated. 45.5 the total. Will Brinson, what do you got?
So I think I love the Chargers. And part of this is a little bit of a fade on an overvalued New England team that, like, look, Drake May was awesome this year, and he is going to be awesome. I'm not questioning that. Mike Vrabel, brilliant coach. I think the Patriots, I don't want to say here to stay. I mean, they disappeared for like 2 years, right? I think this is a long-term successful Patriots team. But I also think they beat up on what is, like, you talk about Notre Dame's soft schedule. This might be the softest schedule we've ever seen for an NFL team. I mean, it is hilariously bad. They played 3 playoff teams, the Bills twice, the Steelers, and the 8-9 Panthers. They lose to the Steelers. They probably should have won that game too. They throttle the Panthers, and they go 1-1 against the Bills. So, like, the okay record against their only good competition of the season. And I just think Justin Herbert has played at a level without his starting tackles, but like almost the entire year, that would be considered MVP-esque, if he hadn't been banged up and if the Chargers were, closer in that division, just all the different, Matthew Stafford wasn't there, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Herbert has an incredible game. I think the Chargers defense steps up and slows down Drake May. Jesse Minter throws a bunch of funky stuff at Drake May that forces him to make some mistakes early. I think this total is way out of whack. I love the under. Don't understand why this is so high. It has been bet down a little bit. These are 2 coaches who want rock fights and who are going to be sort of turtle up a bit in this spot, but not turtle up, but just like kind of like park the bus, to use some soccer parlance. Like, I don't think you're going to be aggressive on offense. I don't think they're going to chunk the ball down the field. I don't think there are going to be a bunch of trick plays. We're not going to see any dumb Carolina-like flea flickers. I think this is run the ball, play defense, let the other team make mistakes, and a very low-scoring game that the Chargers come out on top of.
Will, great job. On Twitter at Will Brinson. All the work can be found, CBSSports.com, CBS Sports HQ, and over at Sportsline. Enjoy the games today, my friend, and I'll catch up with you.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon, man.
Will and I will be texting throughout the games today with our fellow friend Pete Prisco, who's absolutely the best. We will take a quick break here on You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff, Wild Card Sunday in the NFL on Westwood One Sports, and on the other side, I'll finalize my betting card for today. Sides, totals, and thy royal prop game. Ross Tucker still to come as well, here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. This is You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
We want you, dear listener and dear viewer, to open the playbook and choose your boost for today's action. Because look, we got 3 NFL playoff games today. And if you bet, obviously, please bet responsibly. And if you don't bet and you're considering throwing a couple bucks down, the place you should do it is BetMGM. So grab BetMGM's Pro Football Boost Pack, and you'll have 3 ways to boost your odds on your next bet. Activate one of your boost tokens for any pro football bet, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your wager wins. So if you're going to bet the NFL playoffs today, we got 3 games. If you're planning on betting them, you don't have to, right? That's cool. The show's for everybody. But if you're going to bet the games, why wouldn't you do it at BetMGM, where you can get a bigger payout if your bet wins with one of these boost tokens? So make it legendary with BetMGM by visiting BetMGM.com, downloading the BetMGM app. And as always, please gamble responsibly. Westwood One NFL analyst Ross Tucker will join us in about 10 minutes. But for right now, my bets for today, side total, and we'll get to thy Royal Prop King. Grant, please drop the dope-ass beat. We begin our wild card Sunday sojourn in Jacksonville with the Jaguars and the Bills. Jacksonville, a 1.5-point home favorite against Buffalo. It looks like Jacksonville's closing the favorite. Total in the game, 51.5. Will Brinson was just on with us from CBS Sports. And Will's right. The Jaguars are a better team than the Buffalo Bills. There's no debating it. I don't even know who would deny it. But the Bills have Josh Allen, which is not to insinuate that Trevor Lawrence isn't awesome. He's really good, and he was magnificent down the stretch. And the Jaguars are favored in the game. This is not a disrespectful thing to say. Josh Allen's better than Trevor Lawrence. And if Josh Allen's Josh Allen, and I think he will be, I think the Bills will win. Give me the Bills on the money line. Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. Eagles, a 6-point home favorite, 44.5 the total. I don't know if the Eagles are going to win by double digits, win by 7, win by 8, win by 10, but I do think the Eagles are going to win. I do respect Kyle Shanahan a lot. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league, offensive play callers in the league. Maybe San Francisco keeps it close. I would be stunned if the Eagles lost. Give me the Eagles as a money line parlay piece. I told you yesterday, Rams money line, which barely won, but it did win. Eagles money line today. Indiana money line next Monday night against Miami to win the national championship. And the Chargers and the Patriots to wrap it up in Foxborough. Give me the Bolts plus 3.5. The total in the game's 45.5. But I like the Chargers to cover the spread. I don't think the Patriots are going to get a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert. And I think he can slice and dice this overrated defense and stand toe-to-toe with Drake May. Give me the Bolts plus 3.5. I wouldn't be shocked if the Chargers won. And we may be saying after the game, if Justin Herbert beats Drake, da-da-da-da, he's not like us. Those are the sides and totals. Now let's get to thy Royal Prop King, the props for today.
Now approaching the betting window, it is your prop king, Nick Kostos. All hail King Kostos.
All hail King Kostos.
All right. I don't know why I did Matthew McConaughey just now from New York. Whatever. 2-1 yesterday with thy Royal Yardage props. We will look to keep the winning ways going today. 1 for each game. Let's start with the Bills and thy Royal Jaguars from Duval, where, if I like Buffalo in the game, it stands to reason that Josh Allen will have to hit one of his pass catchers, and one of the pass catchers at least will have to play a good game. For me, his most reliable weapon has been tight end Dalton Kincaid. Now, the number is getting bet under, which doesn't make me feel good as someone who likes the over, but I'll stick with my guns here. Dalton Kincaid over 40.5 receiving yards for the Buffalo Bills, and Dalton Kincaid to score a touchdown for Buffalo. I also bet Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, but I do that every week. So if you want to do it, great. If not, all good. Eagles and the 49ers from Philadelphia. I agree with everything my friend Will Brinson said about Saquon Barkley in this game, and I think Saquon might be on the cusp of a ridiculous postseason in a good way for the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon's yardage prop, 81.5. There's no reason not to use him a ton in this game. Saquon over 81.5 rushing yards and to score 2 touchdowns today. Saquon times 2. And last one, let's wait until right before the game starts. Justin Herbert over passing yards for the Chargers, and Justin Herbert to score a touchdown for the Bolts. And those are thy bets, side total, and thy royal props for today's action, Wild Card Sunday in the NFL. We will take a quick break, and on the other side, Westwood One NFL analyst Ross Tucker joins me, Nick Kostos, and you, whoever the hell you are. Countdown to kickoff, Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. This is You Better You Bet Countdown to Kickoff with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary.
All right, so thank you still before we wrap up the Wild Card Sunday edition of You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff on Westwood One Sports with me, Nick Kostos. We'll be joined by our friend Ross Tucker, Westwood One NFL analyst. Our executive producer today is the great Tyler Morales. Our engineer, Grant, take me to your leader. Max Sheedy doing an awesome job as our video producer. Thanks to Will Brinson for joining the show, CBS Sports NFL analyst. Always love when Will Brinson joins me here on You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff. And just a quick update on the betting markets for today's games with the Bills and the Jaguars literally kicking off in about 25 minutes. Jacksonville remains the favorite in the game. Looks like Jacksonville will close a favorite against Buffalo. The Jags -1.5 at BetMGM. Total holding steady at 51.5. That is the highest total of the day. And then we have Philly 6 against San Fran, 44.5. And the Patriots holding at 3.5 against the Chargers. Total is 45.5. And I really think, and we'll talk about this with Ross in a second, that for the Bills-Jaguars game, and I do like Buffalo in the game, that the result of this game will have ramifications far deeper than just who advances to the next round of the playoffs. Where if the Bills lose, I think there's a good chance that Sean McDermott will be out of a job in Buffalo, and this really becomes the craziest coaching carousel in recent memory. Joining us right now here, Countdown to Kickoff, You Better You Bet Wild Card Sunday in the NFL. He is, I like to fancy myself the busiest man in show business, but I'm not. That would be our friend Ross Tucker. Ross is the host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. He's on all socials at Ross Tucker NFL. And Ross will be not only on the call today of the Eagles and the Niners in Philadelphia on Westwood One, along with the great Iron Eagle. But Ross will also be on the sidelines tomorrow night for the Texans and the Steelers on Westwood One, along with Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner. Ross also did an unbelievable job on CBS's NFL coverage this year. And yes, I've known Ross for a long time, but Ross knows I feel that way. I've said it to him off the air as well. My friend, before we talk about the actual games, great to have you. Hope the holidays were great. Happy New Year and all that jazz. Take us through, your travel schedule, what the next, 24 hours in the life of Ross Tucker will be like.
Well, always great to talk with you, Nick, and congratulations on the new show. It's very well deserved. It's funny because it actually started this morning in Atlantic City, because I also am a girl dad, so I was at my older daughter, her club volleyball tournament all day and night yesterday, watching the games on my phone while I'm watching her do volleyball, and then just drove from Atlantic City to the stadium here in Philadelphia. I'll call the game today with Iron Eagle. Drive about 2 hours home. I live out in central Pennsylvania near Hershey, so it's actually convenient in the sense that it's on the way from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. So I'll get home whenever I get home tonight, sleep. I'll have a kind of normal day tomorrow, and then I don't know what time I'll leave and drive to Pittsburgh. That's about 3:15. It's kind of funny. Nobody listening cares, but just for background, I knew that I was going to be on sideline tomorrow night, and it just so happens that M&T Bank Stadium, where the Ravens play, that's about an hour 20 south of my house. The Steelers Stadium, Acrisure, is 3 hours and 20 west. So Tyler Loop cost me 4 hours of my life. So Tyler Loop is not high on my list of NFL players right now.
So I don't know what's more impactful: Ross Tucker losing 4 hours of his life, or John Harbaugh losing his job because Tyler Loop missed that field goal last Sunday night. And Ross, before we get to the games today, I need to get your opinion on what's happening in the NFL coaching carousel right now. And look, you can inject your opinion into this if you'd like whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. It feels like the Packers are going to fire Matt LaFleur. And to me, and I can be wrong, I'm not painting this as a certainty, it feels like this is a when as opposed to an if that the Packers part ways with Matt LaFleur. Do you agree with me that Matt LaFleur is probably going to be out of a job following the collapse last night against the Chicago Bears? And do you think it's the right move if the Packers make it?
Well, there's certainly a lot of smoke. And I would say, I don't know, maybe 75% of the time when there's smoke like this, there's fire. I would say the other 25%, though, Nick, it's really just the agent trying to negotiate behind the scenes, and or the team, by the way. You know, it's almost like they still want to stay together, but they're putting all these reports out there because they both want to try to get the better end of the deal in the negotiation, if you will. So I think that is a possibility. But I guess he's going into the last year of his contract next year. Coaches don't often do that, which, by the way, I don't understand at all. I think it's laughable. Players do it all the time, but like a coach can never go in the last year of his contract. Why? He's not going to get hurt. What's the problem with that? What, you think he's going to leave afterwards? I mean, maybe, but how often has that really happened? I'm 46 years old. How many times has a coach's contract expired and then they leave to go, they're highly sought after, and they leave to go to other teams? It just doesn't happen. It's not a thing. So if I'm the Packers, I think they should seriously consider just letting him play it out. Let him play out the 26-year on the contract. It doesn't sound like they're going to do that. It sounds like this thing could come to a head. It sounds like he'll have other options elsewhere, and he should. As it relates to him in Green Bay, then you get into this similar debate that you had with Harbaugh in Baltimore, or I heard you talking earlier, Nick, with Sean McDermott in Buffalo. You know, I think reasonable minds can say, hey, these guys are giving us a chance. We're in the mix every year. We got to stay the course. And other people can say, listen, it's not working. We need to see if someone else can get us over the hump. I don't think either one of those philosophies or answers are wrong.
What does your gut tell you, Ross? And, I want to keep this separate from what you think's going to happen in the game, because I'll ask you about the game in a minute. But I think if the Bills lose to Jacksonville, they're going to fire Sean McDermott. And I think McDermott would get another job in the same way Harbaugh will get another job, or LaFleur would get another job. They're all great coaches, just like, to your point, the expiration date might be reached on them with these teams right now. So if the Bills lose, and then I'll ask you if you think they'll win or lose, if the Bills lose in Jacksonville, does your gut tell you that they keep or move on from Sean McDermott?
I think my gut tells me that they move on, and I'll tell you why. Now, look, I might be talking out of my you-know-what, and they might already be, totally sold out, but they're going into a new stadium next year. And I feel like there's a certain level of frustration. If they lose today, and it feels like they're going in the wrong direction, and it feels like McDermott can't get them over the hump with Josh Allen, and it feels like, you know what, we got to get some excitement for this team again going into the new stadium. I don't know how much those, seat licenses are, luxury boxes, and maybe Nick, and maybe they've already sold them all out, but it would seem to me like there would be, at that point then, both football and business concerns associated with moving on from McDermott.
That's a really interesting way to put it. I haven't thought of it like that with the Bills moving. And there's still a chance there's one more game at Highmark Stadium. If it's unlikely, Bills-Chargers AFC Championship game. But Buffalo is, to Ross's point, moving into a new stadium next season. And with that, my friend, let's talk about the 3 games today in the NFL playoffs and how you see them playing out. Jaguars and the Bills. Betting market says pick the winner of the game, basically. 51.5 the total. I like the Bills to win the game, Ross, and offer Sean McDermott at least a temporary stay of execution. What say you, Bills and Jaguars?
Well, you know what I feel strongest about, probably of anything today? I really think that the winner of that game is going to the Super Bowl. I really think that the Jaguars probably have the best team right now. I do think Cole Van Lanen, the left tackle, not playing is significant because the offensive line took another step when they put him in there instead of Walker Little. But the Bills have the best player. And the Bills have the guy that we have seen time and again put Superman's cape on when he has to in the playoffs. So I believe the winner of this game is, in fact, going to the Super Bowl. And here's what's interesting. I've got the Even Money Betting podcast. And so earlier in the week, I loved teasing the Jaguars up 6 points from plus 1.5 to plus 7.5 It's flipped. Just like it did in Green Bay and Chicago, the favorite has now flipped. The Jaguars are now favored. So you can go ahead and take the Bills up to plus 7.5. I would take the Bills plus the 1.5 if we're just going ATS. I have more faith. They're telling you it's a close game. They're telling you it's going to be close late. Are you really going with Trevor Lawrence over Josh Allen in that situation? I mean, you can, and Trevor's had a terrific year, and I hope he plays great. But I'm going by what I've seen over and over again, and it's Josh Allen getting it done when he has to.
I agree with everything you said. I like the Bills for all the same reasons, while acknowledging that the Jaguars have the better team. The Bills have the best player. That player, of course, Josh Allen. Ross, I can't wait to listen to you and Ian on the call of the Eagles and the 49ers coming up on Westwood One later this afternoon. My friend Scott Graham, the studio host, all day today on Westwood One. Philly, a 6-point favorite against the Niners, 44.5 the total. Now, I'm sure you'll talk about it, but we don't know if Lane Johnson's going to play, Trent Williams, Ricky Pearsall, so still some injury stuff to be figured out here. Ross, I think the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl, so I certainly think they're going to win this game today. Curious how you see it going with Philly and the Niners.
Wow, that's interesting that you have that level of confidence in Philadelphia. The way I've been saying it all week, whether it's the Ross Tucker podcast or anywhere else, is I think this would be one of Kyle Shanahan's most impressive wins. I really do. I mean, last week, they knew what was at stake with the number 1 seed. They knew how important that was against Seattle. They played all their guys that were available and that they could, and they kind of got the crap kicked out of them. I mean, the game really should not have been that close by the final score of 13-3. They got beat up front, both sides of the ball. Meanwhile, the Eagles just rested almost all their guys. So the Eagles, you'd expect to come flying out, and I would think that the Niners would run out of gas at some point. The only issue with that, Nick, is that was my exact same logic and reasoning for liking the Packers over the Bears. And the opposite happened. It wasn't a situation where the Bears ran out of gas. It was a situation where the Packers jumped on them early, but the Bears had plenty in the tank late in the game. So maybe, that was on a short week, by the way, for Chicago. So maybe Purdy and company can do that. I just think the Eagles' defense is awfully, awfully good. We'll see whether or not the Eagles' offense can get going. It feels like the first team, the 20, wins the game. I think that's the Eagles, and I think the big thing is Jalen Hurts' legs in the second half. When you see an empty set, Nick, think quarterback draw and think, 5 to 7 design quarterback runs after a career low 1.3 this year per game for Hurts.
That is such a fascinating opinion there, Ross, and thing to say and a bit of analysis, because last night, I'm doing my preparation for the show, and I'm looking at the stuff this morning before I'm on the air on WFAN in New York, and I'm looking at Hurts' rushing prop. It was I haven't looked at it in a few hours, 32.5, and I said, you know what, that feels about right to me, but I really thought about that. He didn't run that much this season, and I'm sure, Ross, you saw his quote from earlier in the week when he's asked about it, and he kind of throws Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator, the play caller, under the bus a little bit by saying, yeah, that's what KP wanted, me not running the ball as much. I actually thought the same thing that you did, that maybe he'll run more now that we're in the postseason. I ended up settling on Saquon over rushing yards instead. If I just asked you, and this doesn't have to be a betting opinion, just what do you think's going to happen as someone who analyzes these games at a high level, if I told you Saquon 81.5 or Hurts 32.5, which one would you like more for the Eagles today in 30 seconds?
Oh, that's a tough one because I think the Eagles will give the ball to Bigsby more. So I'll take Hurts in that one. I like the Saquon over, but it depends on how many touches they give Tanks Bigsby. So give me Hurts to have 5 to 7 rushes. One of them will be over 20 yards, and he'll hit the over for you.
Now I'm having second thoughts. I might bet both. I love that thought. And I did think about that earlier today. I love that thought and that analysis on Jalen Hurts. You bet on Wild Card Sunday in the NFL. Westwood One Sports presented by BetMGM. Couple more minutes with our friend Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Ross is on Twitter and on all social media at Ross Tucker NFL. He'll be on the call of the Eagles and the Niners later this afternoon on Westwood One, along with the great Ian Eagle. And Ross will wrap it up with Sunday Night Football. Tom McCarthy, Derek Rackley on Westwood One tonight. Drake May and the Patriots, 3.5-point favorites against Justin Herbert and the Chargers, 45.5 the total. I think the Chargers are going to keep this game close. What says Ross Tucker?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing to do in NFL betting is to take the 3.5. Because they're telling you it's going to be a super close game that really could go either way, and you're going to give me 3 and the hook? I don't know. Like, off the top of my head, it feels like, the Patriots will win that game 55% of the time, Chargers 45%. But in the 55% that the Patriots win it, I don't know, at least 10%, maybe 15%. Feels like it's by 3 or less. So, I don't know. It feels like you're getting value when you take the Chargers, getting the 3.5. A lot of things I said about Josh Allen apply on some level to Herbert. He has not done it as much in the postseason, but I do think Herbert is capable of putting the team on his back and going ahead and finding a way to get it done late. I don't know that he'll get it done to the point where they win, but certainly I think he'll get it done to the point where they cover the 3.5.
Ross, let's close with this. I know you're doing great work with our friends over at futurefans.com. Tell the audience, the viewing audience and the listening audience, about your involvement with futurefans.com.
Well, your amazing daughter is too young, so she's not there yet, so you don't know this, but kids don't like to watch games anymore, Nick. Like, they don't, all I remember growing up was sitting there and watching Eagles games with my dad every Sunday. I think he took all of his frustrations in life out on the television on Sunday. I know you grew up watching the Giants like that. Kids, like my daughters, my nephews, they just want to be on their iPad. Like, they just want to kind of watch the highlights. So I met these guys, futurefans.com. They've cracked the code. I talked to 10 different families that told me their 5-year-old or 7-year-old or 9-year-old learned how about football and started to actually want to watch the games because of futurefans.com. So much so that I invested. It's an unbelievable gift. You're giving a gift to your child or grandchild or whatever, but it's a gift to yourself. Lifelong fandom. Think about the amount of quality time. 3 hours every weekend. Futurefans.com. Futurefans.com. This is what will get it done to have your kid be the fan that they should be.
Ross, you're the best. Have a great call today with Ian. Safe travels to Pittsburgh tomorrow night for the sideline call of the Steelers and the Texans with Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great. See you, Nick.
Ross Tucker joining us here on You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff at Ross Tucker NFL, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and been a friend of mine for a long time. Love Ross's success in the media field. And that does it for the Wild Card Sunday edition of You Better You Bet's Countdown to Kickoff. I am so excited for these games today. Yesterday was sick. Maybe the best individual wild card day in the history of the wild card rounds in the NFL playoffs. Maybe we get an encore today. And if we do, it's going to get started with a banger coming up in Duval with the Jaguars and the Buffalo Bills. I will be back tomorrow with the weekday edition of You Better You Bet, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern on Westwood One Sports. Please subscribe to the new YouTube page, youtube.com/@thekostos, youtube.com/@thekostos. I will talk to everybody then, Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Until then, I am Nick Kostos, wishing all of you, our listeners and viewers, minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck. Let's get it today. Wild Card Sunday in the National Football League.